In this tutorial, I'm going to be going over the List widget. The List widget is an easy way to make a list of any content you want, like text, images, videos, and it organizes them easily. You can see on the right hand side here of our preview, we have a little list. For example, we have our first title, our second title, and then our third one. This one doesn't have a picture, and our fourth one right below that. You can click any one and it'll open up that list item. And these ones are articles with just text and pictures, and users would be able to click left and right and go between them. So if you had a bunch of videos, users would be able to switch back and forth between those videos and look at all the items in the list. So it's very easy to create. You would simply click add a widget, and then list is located right down there. Once you create a list, it'll let you add the items to the list. We're going to go ahead and use this one just to see how it works, and we're also going to create a new article. But let's open this up to see how a list looks. You can see our items right here, and they match up to our list on the right hand side. There's our different titles, our title 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and the pictures. So if you want to add something to this list, you would simply click add a new item to the list, and that'll open up that item page. Simply set your title and your subtitle, and you can do an abstract, and that abstract is going to be, that's what appears below the title when the list is closed. And then you can enter text if you want, and you can do images and videos. So if you add an image or video, that's going to appear in the list item. So we can add a simple image, and then now that it's saved that, once we added the image, you can scroll down and we can see we now have that list item right there. When we open it, there is our text and our subtitle right there. And there's also a few other things you can add to it, such as buttons. You can add different buttons with a variety of different effects. Simply watch the buttons tutorial in order to understand more of those. You can also add tags. Now, tags, for those that are not familiar, they basically add a particular keyword or phrase and associate it with this list item. And users can then click on those tags and see those items associated with it. You can see at the top here, we have a few different tags, and whenever you make a tag, it'll generate that at the top of the list. So all of these tags are associated with different list items. So when we click one, it'll show us that list item associated with that tag. So if we wanted to make a tag for this, we can do tag 5, for example, and it'll say new because this is a new tag that I have not created for this widget. Once you create it, it'll no longer be new, and it'll show up at the top there. Once you click that, it now opens or shows us that list item associated with that tag. So that's an easy way to organize things and for users to be able to see what is associated with what and to easily find the article they're looking for. You can also add an author and date. And the date, if you do choose to make a date, this is also going to be used to determine how it's organized if you decide to organize by date. And that's another way to organize this, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But adding an author is very easy. Simply type the author's name. And when you save it, it'll now add the author's name below that list item. You can see it adds the author. And very easy to use. You can also add locations and attachments and events. So if you add an event, you can set a date and time, and then users would then be able to save that event to their calendar on their smartphone. You can also add a location. By typing in an address, it'll actually make a map for you and generate that automatically in the list item. And you can even do attachments. So if you add an attachment, it'll let users be able to download that particular item, which is pretty neat. So you can see we added a map here. Once we go down and open up that list item, scroll down, the map is now right down there at the bottom. So it's very easy to add items to the list. Once you have all of the content you want on that particular list item, you would simply make sure everything is saved, and then you would go back to the widget page, and then you can continue adding more items. You can go back to the list widget by clicking the menu at the top here, or clicking the back button down at the bottom. Once you're back in the main list menu, you can then add new items to the list as you desire. Or if you're done adding items to the list, you can organize them with the other tabs here. This search and orders tab will let you add a search form and add and organize the pages. So if you click this switch, this is going to add a search form right at the top here. Users would then be able to search for particular tags or keywords within particular titles. That's an easy way to organize and search for things. And if you want to add pages, you can simply determine the items per page. So right now we just have all of the list items out in one list. So if we want to add only 2 per page, we can make it so that it only shows 2, and then users would then have to switch pages. So there's 2, and then they can switch pages back and forth, and then it'll take them to the other articles. And you can determine how the pages are organized with this button. You can show either normal pages where they switch back and forth, or they can do a show more button. And what this does is this is going to make everything load in one line. You would simply scroll down and click the show more button at the bottom. See how it says show more? When users click that, it'll load more items down the line. So it all depends on how you want to organize it. It's pretty easy. And you can determine the order that it's organized right here in the items order dropdown. You can either do it manually, which is what it is now. In this case, you can actually click and drag these titles to reorganize them. You see that once I drag that down, it reorganizes everything manually. You can do that, or you can do it by date, oldest to most recent, or most recent to oldest, and that's determined by the date that you would make in the list item itself, and would organize that automatically by date. And you can also add additional tabs, such as maps and markers, maps with markers or calendars, or even add an RSS feed. And though that's additional training that's going to go over separately, because RSS is a separate training. And you can also determine the style and layout on desktop versus mobile. So mobile, it's generally common practice to organize everything in one column because it's easier to see on a smaller mobile screen. But if you want, you can change it to 2 columns on mobile, and that'll make 2 items per column. In this case, when you click show more, now it shows the 2 items next to each other, and you can do this on desktop versus mobile separately. So that's an easy way to determine how it looks best. And you can also arrange the text and the images on mobile versus desktop. You can determine whether the text is above, below, or to the left or right, and the image shape as well. Generally, the standard shape is square, but you can also shave off the corners and do rounded corners as well. You'll see all the images now, it's more rounded images. See that? More rounded corners. So there's a few different ways to organize this, and you can even determine whether it's opened in a modal or a page. So a modal is a separate window that pops out. See how when I click this, a floating window pops up in front of it, and there's the article, and I can exit out, and it'll slide away and then go back to the main page. That's a modal. If you want to open it in a separate page entirely, you would simply select open in a page. And then that way, anytime you click anything, it'll open up in a separate page entirely. See how it loaded a separate page, and then you would have to click the back button. So it all depends on how you want to organize things. Lots of options, and you can even do an accordion. So let me just get rid of the pages here, make everything 0. And then if you want to make everything an accordion, that's going to kind of scrunch it up in one column. Well, it'll be 2 columns because we set 2 on mobile, but it scrunches them up into a lot smaller titles here, and now if you were to click one, it'll open it up accordion style, and that's what that means, because accordions open and close. So that'll open it up separately, and then you can also determine if it's already opened by showing the accordion items as opened, in which case they'll load already all opened. So there's lots of ways to organize this, lots of different options for lists. The additional options are just like all the other widgets. You can determine whether it's mobile only or desktop only, or if they have to be logged in. And the additional styles let you organize with some more CSS and backgrounds. So very easy to use. You would simply add the list widget, put all of your different items independently, and then you would organize them in the search and the list style and layout tabs. And once everything's all organized or all set, and you're ready to go.